Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I'm Tanvi Taneja. And for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague Jagriti Dave in Washington, D.C. Hi, Jagriti.
Hi, Tanvi. It's 10 a.m. here in Washington, D.C. and 3 in the afternoon across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. New Russian sanctions announced by the European Union. Protests in Kenya against a planned tax hike. We'll bring you these stories and more with our correspondents from around the world. But first, the headlines.
Vladimir Putin says Moscow and Hanoi can build reliable security architecture in the Asia-Pacific region. Adds Russian companies are ready to invest in LNG projects in Vietnam. European Union approves 14th package of sanctions against Russia over its conflict in Ukraine, targeting the country's LNG sector for the first time. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hails the people of Jammu and Kashmir for record voting in recently concluded parliamentary elections. Prime Minister Modi launches several development projects in the valley. Our first news from Asia. A day after signing a mutual defense agreement with North Korea, Russia's President Vladimir Putin touched down in Vietnam early on Thursday local time for talks with the country's communist leaders on the final stop of his two-nation tour of Asia. Putin was welcomed in Hanoi with a 21-gun salute during a military ceremony on Thursday. Vietnam's President To Lam said that Vietnam wants to boost ties with Russia.
Our two nations agreed to research and expand cooperation in the fields of alternative sources of energy and clean energy, contributing to green transformation and sustainable development.
Russia and Vietnam signed over 10 agreements, including a bilateral cooperation pact in sectors of oil and gas, nuclear science and education. In a briefing with his host, Putin said that Russia was keen to partner with the Southeast Asian country in energy and security. Putin said Moscow and Hanoi are interested in building a reliable security architecture in the Indo-Pacific region. He also said that Russian companies were ready to invest in liquefied natural gas projects in Vietnam.
Our countries firmly uphold the principles of supremacy of international law, sovereignty, non-interference in the internal affairs of other states. They coordinate efforts on key multilateral platforms, including the UN, as well as within the framework of Russian-ASEAN dialogue and at East Asian Summit.
In some updates of the trip, Putin's trip to North Korea and Vietnam, we have DD India's Dasha Chernishova, who sent us this report from Moscow.
Ramping up ties and fostering tighter cooperation, Russian President Vladimir Putin has wrapped up his tour to Asia. He visited the DPRK for the first time in more than 2 decades to sign a strategic partnership arrangement with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The deal is set to ramp up ties to a new level, and sides pledge to help each other if either nation is attacked. In Vietnam, Putin met with the country's leadership and said that strengthening a comprehensive strategic partnership with Vietnam is always one of Russia's priorities. In a joint statement adopted after the talks, the sides know their ties are not subject to geopolitical conditions and aimed at strengthening peace, stability and security. Moscow and Hanoi also know that they share close positions on many international and regional issues. Besides developing cooperation in oil and gas industry, manufacturing and digital technologies, the sides also vow closer interaction in the field of defense and security, which is not directed against third countries. Analysts say both visits prove that Western isolation has failed as the Russian president pushes for a new world order. Dasha Chernishova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
Staying in Asia, the US and other Western countries have made all efforts to prevent the Israel-Gaza conflict from spreading further in the region. But it appears that their efforts are not fetching the desired results. Cross-border hostilities have intensified between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah, and Yemen's Houthis have escalated tensions in the Red Sea. A report. Amid rising cross-border hostilities, Israel's army conducted airstrikes against Hezbollah targets in several locations in southern Lebanon on Wednesday. Israel's defense forces said that it was a retaliatory attack after Hezbollah fired around 15 projectiles into northern Israel. Lebanon's Hezbollah, which has been trading fire with Israel for more than 8 months, warned on Wednesday that nowhere in Israel would be safe if a full-fledged war broke out between the two foes.
If the war was imposed on Lebanon, the resistance will fight with no regulations, no rules, no ceilings. There will be no place safe from our missiles and our drones.
Nasrallah also threatened Cyprus for the first time, saying it had been allowing Israel to use its airports and bases for military exercises. Cyprus is not known to offer any land or base facilities to the Israeli military, but has in the past allowed Israel to use its vast airspace. However, Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulides made it clear that Cyprus is not taking any sides in the conflict.
The Republic of Cyprus is not involved in any way in the hostilities. The Republic of Cyprus is not a part of problem. The Republic of Cyprus is a part of solution.
More than 8 months into the war in Gaza, Israel's advance is now focused on two areas: Rafah on Gaza's southern edge and the area surrounding Deir al-Balah in the center. The operations have forced a large number of people to flee since the beginning of the conflict. Meanwhile, Yemen's Houthis released a video on Thursday showing a June 12th attack on the Greek-owned MV Tutor coal carrier in the Red Sea as salvagers confirmed the sinking of the vessel. This marks the second sinking of a commercial vessel targeted by the Houthis since November in what they say are attacks in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. Bureau Report, DD India. Meanwhile, Israeli military branch coordination of government activities in the territories that is responsible for aid transfers released footage on Thursday showing rows of deliveries awaiting collection at Gaza's pier. According to the agency, the boxes have been waiting to be picked up and distributed by the UN aid agencies for days. Satellite imagery taken on Monday showed white containers in the same areas of the site. On to the other conflict now between Russia and Ukraine. European Union countries on Thursday agreed on a fresh set of sanctions against Russia, including their first restrictions on Russian gas. My colleague Jagriti Dave is in Washington, D.C. She takes it forward from me here, gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Jagriti, so first restrictions on Russian gas this time?
Yes, Tanvi, EU countries have agreed on a 14th package of sanctions against Russia. That's on Thursday, and that includes a ban on transshipments of Russian liquefied natural gas. EU companies will still be allowed to purchase Russian LNG, but they'll be prohibited from re-exporting it to other countries. The approval was delayed a number of times over reservations voiced by several countries, including Hungary, which had vowed to block any sanctions on the energy sector. Now, Kyiv has announced the extension of a trade liberalisation agreement between Ukraine and the European Commission on Thursday. This extension enables Ukrainian cargo to enter the EU duty-free for another year. The agreement, initially signed in 2022 and renewed annually since then, includes provisions for automatic renewal, potentially until 2025. Now, South Korea on Thursday said it will review the possibility of supplying weapons to Ukraine. This comes after the leaders of North Korea and Russia signed a pact pledging mutual defense in the event of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine expanding.
The government expressed serious concerns and condemned the comprehensive strategic partnership agreement signed yesterday between North Korea and Russia, which aims to strengthen their mutual military and economic cooperation.
Now, ahead of the 4th of July general election in the United Kingdom, right-wing Reform UK party leader Nigel Farage has set his sights on the English seaside town of Clacton-on-Sea, marking Mr Farage's 8th attempt at securing a parliamentary seat. His ambition is to replace the ruling Conservatives and make his party the main opposition to the Labour Party. The United States has approved the sale of more than 1,000 small armed drones to Taiwan, worth $360 million, as the island aims to strengthen its asymmetric warfare abilities with an eye on successful tactics used on the battlefield in Ukraine. Laura Westbrook has more from Hong Kong.
Taiwan is set to receive 720 Switchblade missiles. These are lightweight, precision-guided missiles that are worth around $60 million as part of this arms package that the US is providing to Taiwan. It will also be providing ammunitions and related components. The US is legally required to provide Taiwan with the means to defend itself, and Taiwan's presidential office has released a statement thanking the US for its security commitments. Taiwan has said it will continue to strengthen its self-defense capabilities. Now, China claims Taiwan as its own, and China has been ramping up military activities around Taiwan. It has repeatedly rehearsed encircling Taiwan with fighter jets and Navy ships. These are what's known as grey zone tactics. These are tactics that fall between war and peace. And security analysts I've spoken to have said that this represents a new way for China to put pressure on Taiwan. Now, Beijing has repeatedly rebuked the US for providing arms to Taiwan. Earlier this month, we heard from China's defense minister, which criticized what it called interfering external forces for providing arms sales to Taiwan. In Hong Kong, Laura Westbrook, reporting for DD India.
Police fired tear gas, water cannon and deployed several police units in Kenya's national capital, Nairobi, on Thursday, as hundreds of people protested against plans to raise taxes aimed at reducing the budget deficit. DD India's Michael Baleke reports from Kampala.
Several people have been injured and many more have been arrested on the second day of protests in Kenya. Hundreds of citizens from diverse backgrounds have taken to the streets to oppose new tax measures by the government. They believe the planned tax hikes will worsen the already high cost of living and place unnecessary burdens on ordinary Kenyans. The government agreed this week to reduce some taxes it had proposed in the finance bill following growing pressure from the public. However, some taxes have been maintained on fuel and exports. The government says the new levies are important to reduce Kenya's dependence on external loans. The vibrant demonstrations with the slogan Occupy Parliament have been coordinated and mobilized on social media by mostly young protesters. Michael Baleke in Kampala, reporting for DD India.
Through a new AI virtual reality program, students in UK schools can now talk to Holocaust survivors without having to leave their classrooms. The program, called Testimony 360, People and Places of the Holocaust, uses AI to decide the meaning and theme of questions and then find responses from a huge database of pre-recorded answers. Well, that's it from me here in Washington. Back to you in the studio, Tanvi.
Thank you so much, Jagriti. Jagriti Dave joining us all from Washington, D.C. You're watching DD India Global, still to come on the show. The ancient Indian practice of yoga to bind countries together on the 10th International Day of Yoga on Friday. India's Prime Minister to lead the celebrations from Srinagar, Kashmir. Environment activist group Just Stop Oil sprayed paint on private planes parked at England's Stansted Airport to protest against the burning of all oil, coal and gas.
voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Global. I'm Tanvi Taneja. On to India's north now, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Srinagar on his two-day visit to Jammu and Kashmir. Prime Minister Modi laid the foundation stone and inaugurated 84 major developmental projects in the valley. The inauguration and foundation stone of projects included road infrastructure, water supply schemes and infrastructure in higher education. And the Prime Minister of India, in his address on the occasion, also thanked the people of Jammu and Kashmir for their record turnout in this year's parliamentary elections. He instilled and hailed their faith in democracy. And India's Prime Minister also met with a delegation of sitting and former US lawmakers earlier today in New Delhi. This delegation was led by Michael McCaul. It comprised the chair of the US House Committee on Foreign Affairs and former US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi as well. The delegation was in India to meet Tibetan spiritual leader the Dalai Lama in Dharamshala yesterday. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe in Colombo and handed over Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre and 154 houses constructed under the Government of India housing schemes. We have Ahmed Muin Faruqi reporting from Colombo.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's Sri Lanka visit, his first bilateral visit since he assumed the charge in the third Modi cabinet, is being seen as a crucial step in taking forward India's neighbourhood first policy and Sagar outlook, that is security and growth for all in the region. Dr. Jaishankar and Sri Lanka President Ranil Wickremesinghe jointly reviewed the progress of several of the ongoing development projects between India and Sri Lanka. He participated alongside President Wickremesinghe in commissioning of Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre or MRCC and participated in the virtual handing over of 154 houses. The MRCC project is funded by a $6 million grant from India and it helps in providing assistance to vessels in distress in Sri Lankan territorial and international waters. The houses that were handed over today were a part of several of the Indian-backed housing projects that are being in operation in Sri Lanka in the entire island. Dr. Jaishankar during the handing over event conveyed greetings from Prime Minister Narendra Modi and discussed with the President avenues for strengthening India-Sri Lanka relations, India-Sri Lanka cooperation in various sectors such as power, energy, connectivity, port infrastructure, aviation, digital technology, health, food security, education and tourism. He highlighted India's commitment to fostering close and friendly ties with Sri Lanka, reflecting the importance of the island nation in India's neighbourhood first and Sagar policies. For DD India, Ahmed Muin Faruqi from Colombo.
And in some updates from India now, the Indian government has cancelled the University Grants Commission's National Eligibility Test, NET. It's a countrywide examination that was held on 18th of June. It's a standardized test for determining the eligibility for the position of assistant professor in Indian universities and colleges. The case has been handed over to the country's Central Bureau of Investigation for a thorough report. The Indian government has completed a 272-kilometre stretch railway line from Udhampur to Baramula, linking Kashmir to the national rail network through the Udhampur-Srinagar-Baramula Rail Link project. This project aims to provide a reliable transportation option for the residents of Jammu and Kashmir. It includes 38 tunnels and 927 bridges, including the iconic Chenab Bridge, and is expected to be the world's highest arch railway bridge. And next we take a look at other stories making news around the world. French President Emmanuel Macron has promised to lower power bills, reduce inheritance tax and link pension to inflation if they win snap elections. Prime Minister Gabriel Attal blamed far-right and leftist threats to the economy in France. At least one person died and several others injured after heavy rainstorm lashed the Russian capital on Thursday. Moscow is seeing heavy rain after a warm June. Italy is seeing high temperatures as first intense heat wave hit the region. Authorities put health safety measures for workers at metro construction sites in Rome. According to weather forecast, heat wave minus will bring temperatures up to 43 degrees Celsius in central and southern Italy. Environment activist group Just Stop Oil on Thursday sprayed orange paint on private planes parked at the Stansted Airport in England. The incident comes just one day after activists sprayed paint on the Stonehenge monument. The group is protesting against the burning of all oil, coal and gas for the elite to fly. And next, the world is gearing up for the celebration of the International Day of Yoga, which will be celebrated tomorrow on 21st of June. Yoga offers a multitude of benefits for children, including improved physical fitness, emotional regulation, concentration and self-confidence. It provides opportunities for social interaction, stress reduction and enhanced body awareness. DD India's Kriti Vadera reports.
The Ministry of Education, in collaboration with Ministry of Ayush and the Morarji Desai National Institute for Yoga, conducts a daily 45-minute TV program on PME Vidya channels to raise awareness of yoga among children and adolescents. This program features a live broadcast in which the instructor demonstrates yoga postures.
To keep children and teachers in schooling system healthy and happy, so NCERT has initiated this yoga performance, and we are happy that today we are celebrating 741 episode in the institute, and we have yoga instructors and demonstrators who help us to enable children to learn about various yoga postures and how to keep them healthy.
Schools in New Delhi have organized a week-long campaign to promote yoga, inviting students, parents, grandparents and staff members to participate in yoga sessions as part of the International Yoga Day celebrations.
Teachers, students, families, we bring in everybody. It's basically school and the community together celebrating International Yoga Day.
Yoga helps calm the mind, and especially after tedious studies, a calm mind is always better for mind, and it helps keep your life in balance. So a good balance between studies and relaxation.
Teachers, staff, parents, students, everyone gets to connect in a way that we don't get to do usually. And yoga, the health benefits, and I think meditation in general clears your head up for everything ahead of the day.
I'm extremely passionate about yoga and I love doing it. It's great for my health and I've seen so many benefits since I've started to do yoga. After doing these yoga sessions, I feel like my mind is refreshed.
Yoga is doing more than just keeping kids active. It's helping them find balance and build resilience in their everyday lives. From improved concentration to better stress management, the benefits are clear. Kriti Vadhera's report for DD India.
So yoga is a powerful instrument to bind the entire world into one. And the theme for this year's International Day of Yoga is Yoga for Self and Society. That's all for this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. So we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.